Okay, so Be'ezras Hashem, we are continuing with our weekly shir on the Ramchal's Adir BaMarom on the Ijer Rabbah, and we're coming to a conclusion of the introduction to the Sefer. So what we're going to start with next week is Be'ezras Hashem going to be the opening of the Ijer Rabbah, which is when Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai gathers his chavraya together after after realizing that it was time. It was time for a shift to take place. And Rabbi Shimon is going to say, Tana, Rabbi Shimon Nachavraya, Ad Emas Nasev B'kaima how long will the world function in standing upon a singular pillar? That is going to be the call that Rabbi Shimon awakens within the heart of reality, within the heart of his chavraya, within the heart of himself to draw down the tikkunim necessary. That's what we're going to start with. But after explaining exactly what the Sefer Zohar HaKadosh is and what we're doing when we're accessing this book, and how in truth this book of the Zohar HaKadosh is in truth the Tevas Noach. It's the Ark of Noach which protects us in the flood. It's the Ma'aras Rashbi. It's the cave of Rashbi that protects him when he runs away. It's the Ir Miklat that protects the accidental murderer. It's that in case of emergency, break glass expression of Bina that is Yored down to Malchus to illuminate Malchus even without the typical orientation of the spiritual development associated with Zer Anpin. The book of the Zohar, the Chiddush of the Zohar, in the sense that it's a continuity of the light of Moshe Rabbeinu and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, is that unlike the other moments of escape as a result of the emergency that brought about spiritual well-being for long enough to be able to function, the Zohar HaKadosh was basically the first technological advancement wherein this illuminated light of the tzaddikim was found ready at hand for an individual to access by opening the book. Ta'chazi, come and see. A person who enters into the Zohar HaKadosh has the ability to awaken within themselves, within their immediate surroundings, most importantly within their own mind, where the Iker Nukuda of Hamtaka takes place, to awaken themselves to that relief that descends down from above, to attach themselves to that secret of the light of Bina that's Mashbiya down to Malchus. And now, to finally kind of bring it fully home, the Ramchal is going to be masbir the different halakim of the Zohar Kadosh. Now, the Zohar Kadosh, this book, which is a territory, which is in truth a reality, which is a universe, loses some of the textual kind of definition that typical books carry with it, which is part of the reason so many people have had questions on the authority kavyachal of the Zohar Kadosh. When it comes to any of the mechkar, we focus only on what the Bal HaSulam Sklusa Ganalenu said, that he says at the end of his introduction to the Zohar HaKadosh, says, and with regards to the new studies about, the origin of the Zohar HaKadosh, he says, I hear people talking about it being misyaches to a 13th century Kabbalist, etc., because of the difference in when it was written and when it was revealed. Obviously, we understand all of that because we understand that it was written in the time of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, which was the time of the Chazah of Galus, which was when there was a Hisgalus of Chasadim, where there was a time for preparations to be completed, in spite of the fact that it wasn't time for it to be revealed yet, as we saw in a few shirim ago. So all of the discrepancies in terms of the reception history of the Zohar Kadosh could be drawn back to and illuminated by an understanding of the spiritual process that was perpetually taking place. And what the Bala Sulam says is with regards to the authorship of the Zohar Kadosh Kavyachol, as if there's something to discuss. So he says, I'm not really bothered by any of it, because if it turned out beyond the shadow of a doubt that the Zohar Kadosh was written by a 13th century Kabbalist as opposed to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, all that would do is reveal to me that this 13th century Kabbalist had a higher spiritual status than Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, because in truth, says the Baal Sulam, I'm not really satisfied with the notion that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai gave us the Zohar Kadosh, because it should come from Memches Nevi'im, and in truth it should come from Moshe Rabbeinu himself. We understand that Moshe and Rashbi are two Giluyim of the same light, which we're going to see from the Ramchal, so the Bala Sulam is not wrong, but nevertheless, what we're attaching ourselves to is trying to understand the shape of the Zohar HaKadosh, something we've discussed at length in previous shirim, in terms of what the various parts of it are. Now, we discussed on Lag BaOmer, and this is not what the Ramchal says, and this is all B'derech Dimyon, and it's all b'derech imagination, but just as any whole system is composed of 10 interconnecting parts that relate to one another so as to reveal something greater than the sum total of its parts, so the Sefer Zohar Kadosh would be no different. So if we look at the Keser of the Zohar Kadosh, the Keser of the Zohar Kadosh would theoretically be the Safra Tzniusa, that lofty place like the Mishnah, what Rav Chaim Volozhiner describes, and that place of Tzniusa, that place of Keser. When it comes to Chachma, that's going to be Idra Rabbah, because the Chachma itself is is the illumination of the mind. The Idrizuta is going to be the secret of Bina, where it's going to be smallness. Then we're going to have the Das, which is going to be connected to the Raya Mehemna, which is the secret of Moshe Rabbeinu's teachings. Then we have the Sheva Siros HaTachtonos. We have all of those various different elements of the Zohar. That's the Guf HaZohar. That's the story of the Zohar itself, including the Idra de Mishkana and including the various parts in the Zohar HaKadosh. And then what we're going to do is we're going to find in Malchus itself, that's going to be the Tikkunim. The Tikkunei Zohar are going to be in Malchus. And with regards to Medrash Elam, a person can find that in Malchus as well. So we have a way of looking at the entirety of the Zohar HaKadosh split up into 10 spheros. But what Rabbeinu Ramchal is going to point out is the fundamental role that each and every piece of the Zohar HaKadosh plays in creating this full development of the Tevas Noach, the Ma'aras Rashbi, the Iram Miklat that we need in order to save ourselves in the time of Ikvas and the Mashiach, and that time when the dance is beginning to be felt, where the Akvayim, which are even that low place, which is unconscious, unable to feel anything at all, it's beginning to dance in the secret of the legless beggar. So Zakt the Heilige Ramchal, the Afarish Lecha Beprat Inyan HaZohar VaHa'idra VaHatikunim. Now I want to explain to you what the Zohar HaKadosh is made up of, what is all included in this general name, the Zohar, and the Idra, which is what we're discussing in this book, and the Tikunim and the rectifications that take place, as well as the Tikunei Zohar, which is something that's fundamentally related to the incoming month, which is the month of Elul. So Hine Rashbi Chiber Sefer HaZohar. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai developed this world. He created the world of the book of the Zohar HaKadosh. Lefi ha'ara asher higia elav b'hitakno b'ma'ara, as we explained, in accordance with the illumination and the spiritual light which descended down to him as he found himself in the cave. So the Zohar HaKadosh was written in the illumination of those ha'aros of Bina down to Malchus. U'binyane chibur al ha'Torah mevayer sodos gedolim lefi sidrei ha'Torah atzma. And the chiddush of the Zohar HaKadosh is that it is written around and printed and published around the parshias of the Torah. Shar hasvarim asher na'asu min ha'machabrim ha'acherim. Other books in Pnimius HaTorah, other books in the hidden secrets of Torah that rested at the heart of the tradition from one generation to the next, the Hainu Kamos Sefer Yetzira, the Book of Yetzira, Pirkei Hechalu, Sukiyotze, all of those various books, the Chol Hasvarim Asher L'Rishonim, Kamot Sefer HaRaziel, the Safar Dechenuch, all of these different books that we know represent the beginning of Pnimius HaTorah, Ukiyotze Behem, and all of the other books. It's not meant to be an exclusive list. Einam al HaTorah U'Lefi Sidrei HaTorah. They're not in accordance with the weekly unfolding of the week-by-week process of Klal Yisrael through the unfolding of the Torah. They don't illuminate with that light of living with the times, as we said in the name of the Balatanya, which is drawing the light of Chai HaChayim, the light of life, into the times, the shifting times, which is the days of the week. But the Zohar HaKadosh, Chibur Gadol V'Noira HaMagala Oimek HaSodos Bebiru Rav Al Torah Atzma. The chiddush of the Zohar HaKadosh is that it is a commentary on the Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is not coming to reveal the secrets of Torah. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is coming to draw the light of Moshe Rabbeinu into the kalim of the secrets of Torah, which is what is so profound about the illumination of the Zohar, which is a commentary on the Chumash itself. The Zen Nikra, and this is what's referred to as Gilui HaTorah b'Pnimiuso. It's not just Pnimius HaTorah, but rather it's the revelation of the Torah itself in its inner interiority. As we said before in the name of the Ramchal a few shirim ago, that the Gilui of the Torah is not that the Chitzonius gets to be Niskala in Pnimius. It's that that it's not that the Pnimius gets to be Niskala and Chitzonius, and that which was inside now reveals itself outside, but rather it's the fact that the Pnimius is in and of itself turning outwards, and it remains Pnimius. It doesn't shift. It doesn't become Chitzonius, which is now something that is susceptible to revelation, but rather it remains Pnimius. The Torah HaKadosha turning outwards is the way that we access the Pnimius HaDvarim even after it's turned outwards to us, and that's the secret of the Zohar HaKadosh. Kamosha Asid HaKadosh Baruch Hu Legalos HaTorah Atzma B'Yoter Pnimius and in truth, this externalization of the inner teachings of the Torah so that the inside is revealed outside for all to see, even that is not the end-all be-all. Even that is just a preparation to the Gilui of the Torah Atika Stima'a, to the Torah of La'asid Lavo, where every element of the Torah, as we understand that nowadays in our limited understanding, is going to be illuminated with the light of redemption, with the light of connectivity, with the light of the Osios themselves, with the light of the Torah Chadasha Meite Titze. And so the Zohar HaKadosh is just a preparatory stage in revealing the inner interiority of Torah Moshe itself. Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to reveal an even deeper expression of the Torah in the future. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai Megala Sodas HaTorah, and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was the Rosh of that generation who was being Megala Sodas HaTorah. In the times of Rabbi Shimon, it said, Pasach Picha ve'iruv Dvarecha. Everybody could open up their mouth and allow their words to illuminate the world because they lived in the Dara of Rabbi Shimon. The Chaverim Makshivim Lakolo, and his friends and his companions were sitting listening to his voice. There was Bittel, there was a teacher who was being Mashpia, and there were Talmidim who were being Makabel, and then the Talmidim, because they had the proper orientation to the balance of the Mashpia and the Makabel, they were able to join in the creative process, as we're going to see throughout the Ejur Rabbah. It wasn't just the Rebbe who was speaking, it wasn't just Rashbi who was speaking, it was Rashbi giving koyach to his Talmidim to speak, and the Talmidim speaking through the koyach of Rashbi. The same way that the Mishnah was developed by the Tanoim, that each and every person gave their opinion. And Rabbeinu HaKadosh collected all of their various teachings and all of their various positions and understandings and combined them all into a book. This was what the Sefer HaZohar was. It wasn't written explicitly by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai necessarily. Not every part of it was, but rather Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was the Bal HaMalakit, the Yalkut Yosef. He was a secret of the Tzaddik who was collecting all of the words and all of the Torah and the insight from the Chavraya Kadisha in a democratic sense. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai wanted to compile a book that was composed of all of the interpretations of the people, his students, and his yeshiva. Sefer Mechubar ala Torah, and that the purpose of this Torah should be a chibur on the Torah on each parsha. Ki achiburim hamedabrim al inyanim pratim min hachochma achas kan va'achas kan. Because when it comes to the very often typical books that speak about one particular element of the Torah Hakadosha, one particular element of Pnimiyas HaTorah, so nikraim kamo otzros pratim. Those are referred to as particular storehouses of insight. Zohar Kadosh, but the Zohar Kadosh Hanaase al HaTorah Zenikra HaPesach HaGadol Shatlalos HaTorah. This is written in generality. This is written on the Torah itself. This is representative of the ability to draw Moshe Rabbeinu into his skalos, from the Pnimius into the Chitzonius, and this is referred to as a Gilui Klali. The other Giluyim were Giluyim Pratiyim, which is why we don't spend so much time on them in a collective way. Each person has to go to all of those Sfarim, but only through the light of the Zohar and then to those Sfarim, because the Zohar Kadosh is the Pesach HaGadol Shal Klalos HaTorah. V'hinei Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai tziva l'Rabbi Abba lios kosev u'masader kol advarim. Rav Abba was the secret of Chachma, was the secret of Tzimtzum, was the secret of being able to be malbish the dvarim of his Rebbe, Rabbi Shimon, in a way that could be received and grasped by those who are below Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Abba. Rabbi Abba was tasked with the task of writing, specifically because he had the ability of concealment. He was there to write and to arrange the words in order. Asher yedabru ha'chachma b'nei ha'yeshiva b'chol zman v'zman b'chol makom sheim. Now, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's book was not meant to be limited into any particular location or time period. It was an open book that was meant to be revealed, where it grew through the revelation of the future interpretations. And it was what the words of the Chachamim would be wherever they found themselves, at whatever time they found themselves. As Hakol Yasadi Lefi Seder Torah, which again answers up so many of the questions as to how could this Tana have spoken in the Zohar, or this place, if we never are not familiar with this relationship in time or place. So Ramchal and all the other tzaddikim are pointing out that it's something that has the ability of exceeding time and place. It exceeds time and place completely. And the book was not meant to be closed until the days of Rashbi B'nai Yeshivaso and his time period. At Sidrei HaSefer. Because in truth, each and every person, each and every part and expression of reality was bringing it down in accordance with their understanding. And this is what it says. Rabbi Abba Parshas Mishpatim, or Rabbi Abba wrote in Parshas Mishpatim, Daf Chof Kuf Gimel Amud Beis, Hahuda Ana Katavna Mebitzina the Kedisha. I'm writing in the name of Rabbi Shimon, meaning to say that the book of the Zohar Kadosh is not meant to be exactly seen as the words of Rabbi Shimon being written, but rather it was the compilation of the words and the students of Rabbi Shimon together in one place. Ubiyamei Chai Rashbi, and in the times of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Azna Asu Tikunim Gedolim V'Nischabru Chiburim Lefi Gilui Asher Niglu. In the times of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, there was such Giluyim that each and every person, all of the books were being composed and compiled in accordance to that particular Gilui. Because the Raya Mehemna, like we spoke about in last week's Parsha, this year on the Zohar Kadosh in Parshas Ekev, the Raya Mehemna, which is the secret of Moshe Rabbeinu, Lakach lo leParash HaPikudim. He wanted to explain the innermost purpose of the mitzvahs themselves, which is Moshe Rabbeinu wanting to come into Eretz Yisrael to be Makayim, the mitzvahs Maisios, to be Magdil, the Eretz itself, to bring it back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, V'nasa Sefer Raya Mehemna. And that's the Sefer Raya Mehemna. V'oid Nasa Sefer HaTikunim, and the Tikunei Zohar, which are 70 interpretations of the word Bereshis and its 70 permutations. In particular, the Rebbe was speaking last night about bara shis and the secret that Hakadosh Baruch Hu created the vak. Hakadosh Baruch Hu created the world of Zer Anpin and Malchus, which appears to be devoid of the illuminated light of Keser, that excluded middle, that is really the place that we're going to reveal the light of Hakadosh Baruch Hu by descending down into the Osios and being Megala V'haya Ekev Tishmoun, specifically in the Osios, that we're able to be Megala the secret of Bereshis, which is Barashis, which is the creation of concealment for the sake of revealing revelation afterwards, and the secret of connecting to the tzaddikim amitim and seeing the face of the tzaddikim, and connecting ourselves to the Osios, that are mitznos sates from that place. But that's what was created in the Sefer Tikkunei Zohar ve'elu beis, meaning the Raya Mehemna, the Tikkunim, which is Das and Malchus, like we said, him chiburim gedolim shayu bahem giluyim gedolim elamala. These are tremendous chiburim which bring about a tremendous light, and they contain and they hold a tremendous punch within them, because they are basically receptacles for this illumination of spiritual influx. That when a person learns them, they come to find that the neshamos of the tzaddikim are melubish within these writings. When you read Raya Mehemna and you read Tikkunei Zohar properly, with the natural tune of the self and the allowance to stop trying to know but to experience, a person begins to hear and attune themselves to the inner sound of Tikkunei Zohar, which is the sound of tshuva, which is the shir pashut kafel mashulish meruba, which comes about specifically by way of Malchus. And the Vilna Gaon writes, and it's brought down in the Hakdama to Peas HaShulchan from Rav Yisrael Mishklov, that the Vilna Gaon was trying to recover the secret lost nigun of Tikkunei Zohar that would be shaykh to the Vias HaMashiach, V'hinei HaIdra, and then when we find ourselves in the Idra Rabbah and the Idra Zuta, this is when the Chavraya Kadisha would go outside in the northern area of Eretz Yisrael, Marav Tuvcha Sher Tzafant L'Reyecha, Yasser L'Choysimbach, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu protects that place of the north. And the secret of the Idra Rabbah, was a communication and a teaching of the connection between Atika Kadisha and Zer Anpin, and the Idra Zuta, which was the deathbed of Rabbi Shimon, discusses the secret of Abba V'Ima and Malchus. And the Idra Rabbah was outside, it was in a granary, that's the language of Idra, they sat in a circle, and the first Idra Rabbah was the 10 Chavraya and Rabbi Shimon, and all of them were going to give their own insights, and 3 of the Chavraya died as a result of the profound holiness. And in the Idra Zuta, it's only Rabbi Shimon who speaks, he has Rabbi Abba sit next to him. The Idra Rabbah took place prior to the Tikkunim. Alkein Amr Bereshas HaTikkunim. That's why in the beginning of Tikkunei Zohar it says, "Vayakumach imcha Rabbi Shimon v'shis chavraya de'iskanchu b'kadmisa v'chulei." That's why it's saying Rabbi Shimon and the 6 chavraya who are gathered together. Why only 7 chavra? Because the first 3 passed away in the Idra Rabbah. V'hayrei lo nishar zayin ela achara Idra, because there was only 7. The Gar, the upper 3 spheros, the upper 3 chavraya left because they couldn't handle that holiness, and what was left because they couldn't handle the expression of holiness in accordance with their level, because of their lofty level. So what remained was the 7 elements of the Zohar HaKadosh and the Tikkunim and in the Idra Zuta, K'mufurish L'Kama, as we explained. Shenichnusu asara be'Idra Rabbah v'yatzu shiva, that 10 went in and 7 came out. V'inyanuhu, what's the secret of this? Kibitchila, in the beginning, afal pi shaya chaverim mitzvim l'fanav oiskim b'razei Torah, afal pi kein l'nasa b'neim kesher chazak b'yamit kim b'inyan zeh Idra, v'farish l'cha ata henin heitav. And the Ramchal is hinting to the fact that the reason that 3 passed away and only 7 came out is the same issue that took place in the time of Rabbi Akiva. It's the same issue that takes place anytime there's a hiskalus or it's noises of the dots of Mashiach, which is the secret of Pnimius HaTorah, is that it's va'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Va'ahavta l'reacha kamocha zeh klal gadol b'Torah. That the ikr nekuda in Pnimius HaTorah, especially in Pnimius HaTorah, is ahava schinam and ahava hadadis and hamlachas chavercha alecha, and the secret of being makabel o malchus shemayim, and recognizing va'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, that in the realm of Pnimius HaTorah each and every neshama is equally distant and equally close to the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That in the bittul, that's niskala, through lights of Pnimius HaTorah, a person comes in contact with the secret of equanimity, with the secret of shivayon, and that's an overwhelming light to handle, and therefore 3 left and only 7 remained, but it's the Idra that develops within them that secret of shalom, that secret of chibur, that secret of the tikkun, which we're be'ezras Hashem going to now enter into in Adir BaMarom. So Shechianu v'kimanu v'gianu lezman hazeh, we are making a siyum right now on the first part of Idra Rabbah, on the first part of the Adir BaMarom, which is an introduction to the Idra Rabbah, and Be'ezras Hashem, what we will start with either this week or next week are the words of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the Heilige Busina Kadishu, whose words should illuminate schus for Klal Yisrael wherever we find ourselves, in particular Marav Tuvcha Sher Tzafant L'Reyecha, Yasa L'Choysimbach, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu performed miracles in the light of Moshe Rabbeinu, in the light of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, in the light of all of the tzaddikim amitim, and tzaddikim in our generation, and through that we'll enter into the light of tikkun, into the light of the Idra Rabbah, into the light of the tikkun to that chad samcha, the rectification of the world, be'ezras Hashem.